Yeah, so just a little bit about me. I'm an alumni here from UCF. Very proud. Go Knights. I am by title the Chief Financial Officer for Alcorn McBride Inc. So we're an engineering company here in Orlando, Florida. My background spans about 12 years at that company, focused on primarily banking negotiations, customer negotiations for long-term terms, suppliers, how do we negotiate terms there, credit lines, commercial property buying, that kind of thing. But more recently, over the past couple of years, I've gotten really heavily into our human resources side of things. So how do we structure our benefits and salaries to be competitive with the market and just bring in talent for the next generation? So let's just click the next one. So my goal here today is simple. When you get your first offer, you know what it is and what to do with it. That's primarily what our goal is here walking away. So when salary comes up, you'll know what to say, what to go about. So just to get some engagement, you may get your first offer. You guys are going to graduate here soon or already in the process of talking with employers about this subject. And an offer comes in, and just raise your hand if that initial offer is something you would take. No? Good. So you guys understand what a range is, a range for assessment. That's great. So we're already establishing what our market value is and understanding just what salary is. Okay. So when the subject of salary comes up, you're meeting with an employer that you're interested in, you're having discussions about a role, you're trying to find out more about it. It may be with a larger scale organization, it may be with a small company, it doesn't matter. It's best in the beginning stages to find out more about the role than it is to talk on the salary front. That gives you a little bit more leverage on the back end. If you lead with salary, you're a little bit more constrained on the subject matter. But our goal here in discovery of the role is really to find out more about it. See if this is something you even want to do before locking yourself into discussion of compensation. So how do we know what our market value is and how do we determine what a realistic range is of a company and what we can pull from that? You're not guessing, you're understanding what your place is in the market. Everyone says do your research. This is what it means to actually do your research. You're not trying to overcompensate where you're at. You're just trying to get along. So what does that mean to actually do and fall in a compensation range? Yes. Okay. So there's plenty of sources to go through and find out where your actual market value is. A lot of you are probably different majors. Some of you may be finance majors, marketing majors. You may be engineering majors, nursing. You may be going for schooling. All that information exists out there. There's different facilities to pull that information from. It could be something as simple as getting on Glassdoor. It could be getting on LinkedIn. I primarily find it the best is to have conversation with peers. So if you stay in contact within your network, find out where your peers are going off to. What are they getting paid? How have they negotiated? And pull in multiple sources. My favorite thing to say is one source is just noise, but three is a signal of indication that something is truth. So the most important thing you can do is find and dig that information out and get creative with it. I think LinkedIn's a great source. Go on there and look at alumni from your school that are in roles that you're interested in. Reach out, connect. Even if you get crickets, somebody may say, yeah, I'll take a conversation. That's an indicator of realistically what market you can find out and research and pull that and use multiple sources, not just one. Recruiters often at times will give you ranges of salaries. Keep those for notes and find out later on, double back and see what that really means. Great. So it's not just about salary, it's total comp. So this is where this discussion came up from. We were sitting in this room, we were having this conversation about what salary was, attracting students, a bunch of us from human resources here in Orlando, about what the disconnect is from understanding what students are seeking, what new hires are seeking, and what benefit packages are. So we're finding that some things are more important to younger generations than existing workforce. Health insurance may not be the most important thing to you. It may be compensation to go back to school. It may be hybrid. It may be PTO. It may be something different, but it's to understand something beyond what that base salary is. It's to understand what your total compensation is and how to compare that to other offers in the market. So next slide. So this is just an exercise here. I have three different offers up here. This isn't designed to trick you in any type of way, but I'd like y'all to take a moment and just look at this and get an understanding of it. You have three different offers here and three different salaries. One starting at 65,000, you have one at 57 and 55. You may have negotiated a sign-on bonus. You may have different levels of PTO offered to you. Healthcare. One employer may offer to pay 70% of your healthcare premium. Another may offer to pay 100% of yours. Another one may be willing to pay 100% of your families. So your spouse, your kids. 401k match may be 6% of your salary. You could be getting a tuition reimbursement. You could be getting remote, hybrid, flexibility, relocation support. I left out stock, residual stock options. I figured that would get a little bit too complicated, but let's just use this. Take a minute and just pick one in your head. All right, next slide. Okay. Now, I've broken this out a little bit differently to show you what those values are. So beforehand, we just had some numbers, simple numbers up there. Now we have a different total comp on here. Did that change anybody's number? Just out of curiosity, anybody's letter? You just raise your hand. Okay, who thinks A is their better offer? What about B? B. What about C? That's great. That's exactly what I want to see. There is no right answer. It's about what's right for you. And that's the most important thing. If going back to school was the most important thing to you, offer B may be the most important compensation total. If you had, hey, I'm going to have a family, the most important thing to me is that health insurance coverage and flexibility. I can pass on a little bit higher salary. Offer C might be it. Maybe you wanted to really just come out the gate hot, grind things out. Maybe it's offer A. The important thing is to understand what these numbers are and what they mean to you more than anything. And then to understand, more importantly, what their values are. Healthcare value may be something you're not factoring in right now until you get that first paycheck. PTO, freedom, maybe another one. Flexibility, remote, maybe the key thing. So it's just understanding and evaluating those packages one by one before we make a complete compensation. All right. So what can you actually negotiate? This is a question I get asked a lot. Almost anything, believe it or not. At the University of Florida, we did exercises in this. At Stanford, we focused in on how to have discussions on all these different things. The primary thing is base salary is what a lot of people negotiate. But you may want something different. You may have been so burnt out from school over the past 5 years or 4 years, or some of us in this room, 6 years, that you want to go travel for a little bit, which I highly encourage. Push your start dates out a little bit and take a little vacation. You will have the rest of your life to work, but you will have very little time and freedom to go and travel, see a little bit of the world, or spend some time at the beach or something like that before you go in. So you can negotiate a lot of these things. Relocation, maybe you need to help to get from one area to the next, $800, $1,200 to get moved into a new apartment. It may be something like, I'd like to go back to school. Maybe it's a small company and they don't offer that. But you show some initiative and say, hey, within the first year, I'd like to come back to UCF and get my master's. Or maybe I'd like a little bit of help with my student loans. It could be up for discussion. Most people think it's just about salary. It's something beyond that. All right, next slide. Okay. So negotiation strategies. It's not like the movies. This isn't some big back and forth. This isn't like buying a used car. It's very simple. Once you've done all your research, you're prepared. The most important thing is that you do that first part and that you don't come in like, well, what can you do for me? What's the highest number I can get? No, realistically, just come in relaxed, poised, and just say this one line right here. I'm really excited about this role. Based on my research, I was expecting something closer to this. Is there flexibility? And then pause. Just about 20 seconds of awkwardness. Give you the difference of a couple grand. Just let it happen. I'm very serious about that. You're not asking for more. You're asking what's equal for you. Okay? That's the most important thing. You're not asking for more. You're asking what's equal for you. Aligned with the market. It's a very important line. So accepting immediately, I understand. I did this when I came out of school. It's during the recession. I got the very first offer. I was super excited. I panicked and I just took it. Didn't really negotiate. Didn't fire back anything. I just accepted. I later found out somebody else got hired alongside me and started off $5,000 more than I did. So I came out making $40,000. They were making 45, almost 12% more. What she did was she had an internship and she said, well, I have a little bit more experience. I'd like to come in at this. And they said yes. So two things happen there. One, communicate with your peers a little bit. And two, take your time and ask a question or come prepared to it for that as an accountant. So you're not asking anything out of line. You're just focusing on the salary, dialing in, having that dialogue. No one teaches this stuff. This is why a lot of people miss out on it. So we've got the offer. We're in discussion. We like the role. We want to negotiate. They say no. Okay. That's okay. No's will happen. We're going to hear no a lot in life. It's important to ask about other things. What are some things that we can get that we were interested in? Did we want to push that start date back? Did we maybe want to get some help with a moving truck? Trust me, moving is not fun. You think you can do it now because you're younger. Trust me, when you get to be about 30 and someone calls you up and offers to move, you say no, absolutely not. Somebody did that to me this weekend. But I'm dead serious about that. Maybe it's a couple of extra days of PTO. Maybe it's something like that. It's not going back, but it's just saying, hey, look, here are some things I'm interested in. Have that ahead of time. Don't make it look like you're clawing, but just say, hey, these are the things I'm interested in, and be professional with it. You'll be fine. I understand that there isn't flexibility today. I like this line a lot. Somebody did this to me a few years ago, and it stuck with me. I understand there isn't any flexibility today, but what does the future look like for review? That's an important line right there. So it may be a year from now when you're with this organization and salaries do come up again. You want to move from an associate to a senior, or maybe you come in as a senior, you want to move to a manager or something like that. I'm using these terms vaguely for what human resources could be, but it's important to know what the pathway looks like for you on compensation. Orlando is not a cheap place to live anymore. So having a frame of mind of where your referencing point can be is extremely important. So just having that is important.
Can you repeat?
I understand that there isn't flexibility today. I'd love to have a better understanding of how growth, performance, compensations, reviews work over the first year. And if you'd like, you can have these slides. I'm happy to send these over to you, and you can use these against me later. There you go, next slide. So, I know that's a lot. It's nerve-wracking, to have these negotiations. You're trying to figure out which way to go, trying to find the right role and everything else. This is simply designed to just give you a couple of quick tips on this subject. But if you don't remember everything, just remember this. Don't accept immediately. Do your market research. And the most important thing is talk to your peers. Have honest conversations about this. This is the only way we're really going to find out what compensation looks like and what your market value is. There are plenty of examples of people finding out, hey, I'm not paid as much as A. B's paid more because they asked. Or C's paid double because they asked. Maybe not double, but 30% more or something like that. And it's not total comp. I'm sorry, it's not just salary, it's total compensation. What does the whole deal structure look like? So many people are focused on how much that paycheck is rather than what comes with that. Does it come with unlimited PTO? Does it come with floating holidays? Does it come with benefits to get me into my favorite theme park? Does it come with mental health days, remote flexibility, helping me come back to school? All these things factor in the long run. They all have value. So hopefully you can use some of this stuff to help you just centralize what your offer looks like and compare. I hope you all have multiple offers coming out of school and you can do this. So let's just say you've done all this You have an offer, pause, think a little bit. You have the offer. They came back, they accepted, you came in at 75. You said, hey, my market research says flexibility, I'm closer to 78. They agree. What do you do? It's important to reflect. Is this what I want to do? Is this the right place for me? I've got the salary, I've got what my offers are, but is this where I want to end up at? Is this 30 minutes from my house? Is this 10 minutes from my place? Does the pathway for growth align with what I want to do? Do I want to be doing this for the next 3 years? Do I like my manager? Do they seem like a great person to help me? Can I add value to this place, most importantly, and feel fulfilled? Have I reviewed the compensation correctly? Just take a minute, reflect on it. Kind of a big deal. You're going to be spending a lot of time there, so it's okay to take a day or two. Next slide. Red flags. This is important. So not everything's going to be, legitimate. Some things are going to be not going to have the right vibe. Let's just say that. So how do we spot some red flags? One, you have a discussion with a hiring manager and they make an offer verbally. Great, get it in writing. You have a discussion with the CEO or somebody else. Get it in writing. People tend to forget the longer things go on. My mentor has this line that I love a lot, and it's deals don't get better with time. So let's get everything wrapped up. If they say something, say, hey, can you follow up with that with an email today? I think it's an extremely important thing. If they dodge your questions about workload and culture, that's an important thing. If they say, oh, I took a call when I was coming out of school for public accounting, and I was interested in coming back to school at night. And the hiring manager was just like, well, what's your availability look like? And I said, well, it's open, just normal availability, I thought. 9 to 5, 9 to 6. And they're like, well, can you do overtime? And I said, yeah, sure. Sure. I'd be trying to go to school at night, but yeah. And they're like, well, busy season's coming up. We need somebody here that can do 80 hours. And some of you may be going public. Somebody in the chat might be going this route. And that's a pathway for a lot of people who go to a big four firm. That was really preached to us at the time, but that didn't align with what I wanted to do. So politely kind of decline that further. If there's vague, if there's a lot of turnover there, if there's not a great onboarding process, if you ask those types of questions, like those are some kind of red flags. So this may not be the right fit for you. Excellent. The most important thing is how to say no and decline. It's a small community out there. It's important just to be polite if something's not for you. You may look at an opportunity that just doesn't align with you. There may be something better for you. You may have an offer from somebody else that you like a lot more. After careful thought, I've decided to pursue another opportunity that aligns more closely with my goals. I'm grateful for your offer and the chance to connect. That's all you got to say. Don't ghost it. Don't say no thank you. You can say no thank you, but just write something nice. And just say, hey, I appreciate it. This isn't the right opportunity for me at this time. Thank you very much. That's it. That's how you decline. There's been plenty of times where we've gone down avenues with hires and things like that where, hey, we're trying to move somebody down from this area, or, hey, they're really interested in doing this instead. And that's okay. We find out a lot of things during the interview process about ourselves and about candidates. So sometimes it's not a fit. Completely 100% okay. It's okay to say no. Next slide. Yeah, this is just a reminder. Get everything in writing, your start date, your title, compensation, bonuses, any agreements along the way, bonus timelines, that kind of thing. I personally haven't had this problem, but plenty of my peers from business school have had issues where they were agreed stock options or something like that, or a percentage, and it wasn't in writing and they lost out on some sort of compensation. So I think it's extremely important to just have something in writing. I don't think you'll run into this issue. I have a lot of faith in the Orlando community, but let's just have a clear expectation. Their expectation and your expectation align. Great. So I think the most important thing is we've gotten to this point. We've met with employers. We've narrowed down offers. We've declined the ones we don't want. We've accepted the one we do want. Now it's just building that game plan for success, showing up, executing what we said we were going to do, and being open to learning. That's all it is to it. You've gone through the process. You've given all your documents. They're excited to have you. You show up the first day ready to go and ready to do what you set out to do. Just this one little bit. This one little bit will be pushed behind you. The back and forth of human resources, the asking for things, everything else, don't let that phase you one bit. There's going to be plenty of times in your life you're going to go back and forth because you're about to enter the real world of the workforce. It's okay to have a little bit of friction for a little bit more money or for the offer that you want because you're worth that. All right, next slide. Okay. So primarily, I just wanted to open this up to you all on what questions you have. That's my LinkedIn. You're more than welcome to connect with me. I spend a couple of days a year up here just helping with resume reviews and workshops, that kind of thing, just to give some time back to the university. It's been very helpful in my career. But I'd love to just answer questions that you all may have that wasn't covered in this, or how I can better assist with negotiation topics. Yes.
So, oh, it's gonna show up on there. Sorry. Okay. Are you saying when is the best time to negotiate? Because I've interviewed for jobs where someone from HR called me before the interview and asked me if I was happy with the salary. And then I've had jobs where people in the interview asked me if I was happy with the salary. And then I probably only had one opportunity to revisit the salary after the interview. So I'm curious, like it seems like it would be easier if I knew that they wanted to offer me the job and then they were going to negotiate, but it felt premature before they offered me the job. So what advice do you have about when to bring this up?
So we're going through with a candidate right now, and we on our side, my strategy is always to try and get it out early. Of just like, hey, what are your expectations? So I'm firing to you what we would use. So we would say something like, hey, what are your expectations for, let's just say like a senior engineering position? And we'd be expecting a bracket, right? A bracket for a salary range. And they fired back the exact response, which is, hey, I'd like to just find out a little bit more about what it is I'd be doing and what the team looks like, that kind of thing. Like, okay, great. I would say before it gets down to somewhere before the technical or before that final bring in, before you're being brought in of just, hey, from our discussions in this, I'd like to get a salary of this. So I would say, because it varies by such scales of organizations. I'm thinking a buddy of mine just accepted a role with a hospital group, and it came up right before they made him the offer. He was told to give a bracket, and then they called him and said, hey, are you happy with this number? And then he fired back with, well, could you do a little bit more on this end, type of thing. So I would say if they're calling you up asking if you're happy with the salary, there's room to just be like, well, hey, looking at the market, I'd be happy with like a little bit more of about $5,000 more or $7,000 more based on my research and looking at this. If they're starting the dialogue with you, there's plenty of time to come back to it. Even when the offer letter arrives, there's plenty of time to go back and just say, hey, I have an expectation of maybe X more.
And you feel like it's appropriate, like you said, you'd rather have friction and ask for it than not.
I'd rather have the
Most
friction.
people I know are too scared because they feel like they don't want to overstep and no one gets a job.
Yeah, that seems to be a common thing, but
You're not offended when someone like shoots higher than what you.
no, not at all. I think as long as that's backed with research and that's backed with evidence, I think that's just fine. I think that's respectful because we're not perfect. My market position may be off basis. That's why the stock moves every single day and the NASDAQ. I mean, different people have bid ask prices for things and it's ever changing. That being said, I think it's important to come with that with an expectation as to why and a reason, not just saying, I want $5,000 more or else. I think it's important to phrase that in a way that's backed by research. Hey, I had an expectation of 75, or I'm coming from a role that was paying me X. I'd really like to get to here based off of this and where I'm headed in my career. I think the friction's okay.
Two questions for you.
Can you give me the mic?
Sure.
Two questions for you. The first one being,
a lot of employers are now choosing to make a job posting without disclosing salary.
Yes.
So, and we kind of talked about like when to bring it up. Let's say we do want to get it out of the way in the very first, let's say, phone interview.
Yeah.
Explain a way we can do that where it doesn't seem like that's the only thing that's important to us, or like we're money hungry. Like how would you suggest going about it?
Absolutely. Yeah. All these things I have felt, and you're not alone in this. And I definitely feel that way, even asking for, an extra slice of something at a restaurant. I'm not gonna, even in my own home. I would say it's like, hey, I'm excited to learn more about this opportunity. I know X amount about your organization. I have an expectation coming in of this range. Is that doable within, the realms? Just so we're both on the same page of expectation. Yeah, you can frame it that way ahead of time. If you're nervous or if you don't want to go all through the process to find out that this is, not the right opportunity. I was going to say something like, oh, this is a, earn your keep type of role or something like that, where it's half your expectation. If it sounds too good to be true, chances are it can be. But yes, early on in the career, it's like, hey, I'm coming from XYZ Corporation. I was making 70,000 there, or I'm coming from this corporation. I'm really interested in growing my career. I have an expectation of 85 in my next opportunity, or I have an expectation of X in my next opportunity. Does that align with what you all are seeking? Yeah. And then you're both on the same page. It's like, yeah, that's something doable. And then there you go. And then you can always find out more about the position later and, come back and say, hey, I had this discussion. I found out great. I'm excited for the role. I'm excited to plant my feet here over the next couple of years. Do we have flexibility to put me at this position to where I feel comfortable in spending the next X amount of years growing with your organization? That sets the tone of just, hey, on our end, we don't want to lowball you and end up in a situation where, hey, we've spent 6 months bringing you up to speed in our ecosystem and you get an offer from Lockheed Martin for double or something like that, or for a lot more money and end up leaving. It costs the employer a lot of money to lose out on talent, especially smaller organizations. So it's this back and forth dance a little bit, but ultimately we want a happy employee. That's the number one thing. We want everybody to be happy. We want everybody to feel comfortable in what they're doing and motivated to move the ball forward. If there's some hesitations on finances and there's some ambiguity, or if there's some hard feelings, then I think we're missing out. We're doing the wrong thing. So it's important to set those expectations early. Yeah.
What do you think about like over the past 10 years of businesses where a lot of people?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Zoom call is listening.
A lot of people over the past 10 years will work at a job for 2 years and then move on to another place to move up faster and get more salary as they move throughout the corporate world. Do you think that's better, or do you think it's better to stay with the company and move up with them?
As a smaller market size company, I'll tell you, if you're looking at like a larger scale organization, I think we can talk like blue chip companies. Let's just use Google. How about that as an example? Let's use Google and Meta. Uh, when you're looking at such large scale companies that have different levels and different title changes and interior departments and things like that, can become more beneficial to move from company to company as long as you're learning and bringing value each time. A lot of stuff that's missing behind the scenes is you were, let's just say, a senior on one project here and you were in charge of XYZ and you gained some great experience there. Well, then there was an opportunity over at Boeing organization to do the same thing except for more of a managerial position. So that opens up, hey, we need somebody to do this person has experience in there. Let's bring them in and do that. So sometimes, unfortunately, larger organizations miss out on existing talent, and it makes sense for you to move on to the next thing and move on to the next opportunity for growth. So yes, that's a strategy at times to increase compensation, increase what you're learning and what you're doing, and increase your tool set. So I think the best opportunity you can have is to have that communication with management and just say, hey, as long as I'm learning and as long as I'm growing, if that's what you want to do, look for those opportunities. And if they're not presented, then yes, then you can look outside and just see, hey, I want to do this from a larger scale perspective and apply it. It's completely fine. Yes.
Okay.
So would it be possible to counter again, like if you already countered an offer, and they declined. And then you counter it again. Because I had an experience like this, and it was like I was an internal hire. And I was transitioning to a full-time role, but in that part-time role, I got a raise. And I wanted to have them match it, but they didn't. And then I ended up accepting anyway. But I wanted to know if I could counter it, if that would have been appropriate to counter it again, or if that would have hurt my chances. A lot of words, sorry.
My perspective, and there's so many subtle, emotional, intelligent things with these things that we feel when it comes to these things. So please, by all means, this is not, the art of the deal or anything like that. My whole thing is, a lot of this is vibes and the feelings and the communication on it. If you feel that, there's room there, human resources should, if I'm a manager, which I've heard this go a couple different ways, should be able to come back and say, hey, if they're asking for this, just give it to them, type of thing. Or a good thing is if the manager is the one who wants to hire you, bring it up to them and have them go back to HR. There is so much that's sometimes lost in between the communication of management wants this person hired. Human resources job is to get it done. They have a budget range of what they're supposed to be in. And they've sent the offer up. The applicant wants to come back or something like that. And there's something lost in there. Management has sometimes the right to override and say, no, I want this person. I don't want to go back. I don't want to interview anymore. Give them what they're asking for. I hear that story 9 times out of 10 when it comes to countering. That managers have and this is larger scale organizations like we're talking about here, have the ability to do that type of thing, even small scale, but more so on that side is where my experience and comment comes. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
For Zoom call, we have a question. Can I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. If the employer says no to any negotiations, how should you respond?
If they're not willing to work with you, are you willing to work with them? Yeah. I think that's realistically it. Like you kind of got your answer there. And that can be helpful. Like if something's firm, but there's tone in how that's communicated, right? Like it's all about communication when it comes to things like, hey, it could be a nonprofit. It could just be, hey, we got a tight budget. Or, hey, I'm bringing in somebody entry level and I really don't have the budget. I really had the budget for an intern, but I'm trying to bring this person on because I think they're talented and I think they could be a great hire. Hey, this is what I got to work with right now. I can't do anything today, but what I can say is that here's what a pathway looks like to what something larger scale can be and what I think your usage is. That really comes down as an employer of what you should be doing. But if your employer is just shutting you down, saying, hey, no, 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 then you kind of got your answer, and that might not be the best place to plant your feet. Right. Other questions? This is y'all's time, please. Yes.
So I know we talked about going to your peers to talk about their salaries. I know I'm coming from an older generation where we were told never ever talk salaries with anybody. And I actually work full time, and I'm noticing the younger generation, they definitely do. And
Yeah.
we've even had some drama with interns, and there have been tears. And then you get the older employees saying, like, see, this is why we don't talk about salaries. And then you have the younger ones saying, no, this is why we do talk about salaries. So it's kind of like, I don't know and then I'm kind of in the middle, like I kind of see both sides, but I'm stuck in the middle.
Yeah. It's a ever-changing landscape. I've seen companies where this is wild. They had like a salary sheet of everybody in the organization and what they were making, and it was publicly viewable. So you could just see what people's market values were. The University of Central Florida is a public institution, and you guys can look up what your professors make. So, I mean, this information's out there. So, and government workers as well. I think it comes down to, I don't want to start a revolution or anything like that, but it's just, you're allowed to talk about these things. You can have a dialogue. And I think that's the aspect that's missing. I think it's important to communicate the full steps of things. I think often we hear numbers, but we don't hear the full context of those numbers and how they're delivered. So I think it's important to just have those dialogues. And I think it stems from a period of time where there was a lot of pride surrounding money and what we were making and keeping up with the Joneses. And the younger generation is fantastic at just not caring about those things, being more minimalistic and being more focused on experiences and enjoyment and that sort of thing. So I think it comes down to, again, what's the emotional intelligence with it, and what is the environment it's discussed in. Um, I'm always grateful for peers and the stories I hear where they had dialogues about it and they were able to get additional compensations on their next roles from that early on. So if you trust one another, have a dialogue, ask. And if not, then find someone else. Yes. Anyone else?
I just wanted to ask, I don't even know how to formulate this question per se, but would you say, I think that some people fear asking for too much and maybe having them like remove the offer altogether. From the other side, from the recruiter side, would you say that this is purely transactional, that maybe as the interview we're like assuming intent, like we're assuming that we're going to bother, that we're asking for too much, that there's like an emotional aspect to that, but they don't really care, this is purely business? Like, can you shed some light into the other side?
Sure.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is good. Let's take it from the other side of things. We don't own the organization. It's not our money. So I think that it really comes down to yeah, it's a good way of phrasing it. It's not a bad thing to ask for a number that's high, or to come back and ask for it. I think that we as an organization are expecting that. We're expecting you a little bit to come out and say, hey, here's what this is. And we definitely are going to feel you out a little bit on that. If you ask for a high number, we're going to want to know, can you bring that level of value to it? So whatever number you put down, is this person going to deliver this level of value? And then that's our job to vet it a little bit. So that's why we go through technical interviews. We go through culture fit interviews. That's primarily it. So if we give you this level of money, the business is going to be expecting some level of return, but also, are you going to be here for a good amount of time for us to see that value? So again, it's a dance a little bit, because we want to make sure you're happy and that we can sustain that. We also want to make sure that it's in line with what our other team members are doing and producing. But also, we don't want you to leave 9 months out if you're doing a good job and, hey, we lost out because we didn't pay them an additional 20% that they were asking, which was within market range. So yeah, I think it's important. It's communication on both sides. Hey, we have the ability to do this. We'd like to offer you this. If your expectation is this and within line, yeah, we're going to match that because we want to see you succeed. At least that's what I can speak for on Alcorn McBride Inc., the engineering company here located in Orlando, Florida. Yeah. Yeah. Always we're looking to just ultimately in the morning having people come in and do what they want to do and add value, because collectively that's what it's all about, and go home and be satisfied and go off and do the things that you enjoy doing. If there's, a way to get us there by giving a couple more dollars, then yeah, we're not going to lose sleep over it. Anyone else? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw you a hypothetical, just because of what you mentioned. You made a comment about, well, it's not your money. So let's say hypothetically that you are interviewing for a business startup and you're with the founder, and he owns the company, and he created a position for you, so there's not a set salary, but you want top dollar because it's going to be a lot of hard work. And I mean, he may say it's 40, but it's going to be more. Like, let's say something like that doesn't have the guardrails that you used to answer that other question. Do you have anything specific that you would say, I would be especially sensitive to this, or specifically ask for this? Anything different than what you've already said, or does it all kind of remain the same?
This really comes down to who you are as a person a little bit. Me, I like money on the back end, equity. So I'd go after if it's a startup phase of something and the hours are unknown, they need your expertise and they want you. Chances are there's not a lot of capital for salary is what ends up happening a lot of times. So I have peers that are out on the West Coast that are in this situation. You end up in, like, let's just say a startup that's maybe in Series A, which means they've got a round of seed funding. They're limited on what they can really pay in salaries, but what they can offer off is options and stock options. We didn't get into residual stock options, but I'll do this real quick. So what I would negotiate for is if I believe in this company and I believe in the founder and what they're going to do and they're putting together a great team, is I would be, if you're in the position to do this, take a little bit less on the base compensation and then put the rest on risk. So the risk side of things is residual stock options. So you say, okay, hey, if there's, let's just use a simple number. Let's just say there's 1 million shares or something like that. They estimate the par value of the company with a patent or something like that to be $10 a share. So the company has a value of $10 million, but doesn't have liquidity, which means it doesn't have a lot of capital. They're trying to run lean to get this to $100 million in value. So they may say, okay, hey, we can't pay you that huge salary that we want to. However, what we can do is we have these shares that are going to be worth this at this time, we feel. So you can take that as an opportunity to say, okay, risk to reward, I'll put more money on residual shares than on base salary and run it back kind of thing. But the caveat to that is now, be very careful. I have seen situations where people end up in a series funded venture where they can't liquidate those shares as easily. So I'm not going to name a name, but a peer of mine is in a situation where he was with a startup and he left the startup to go travel the world for 2 years and said, I'm going to come back after that or go off and do something different. He tried to liquidate some of his shares, came back. Organization is still in like Series C. It's not performing the way it's supposed to. These shares aren't worth as much or they're more difficult to liquidate. So all this value and everything else isn't really there. And before his options expired, he needed to come back and work another year. So it's a little bit more complex on the back end. Just an example of where things can go in risk to reward. I've seen it go on the other side where company goes public, shares become worth 35x, 40x. So just comes down to what your risk tolerance is and if that's something you want to do. But no risk, no reward. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Anything you feel like we didn't cover? Yeah.
So, tomorrow I have an interview for an internship, right? However, their salary isn't listed. I was just wondering, like, if they were to ask, like, what I wanted, like, how do I go about answering that? Is that something I should look at, like, what that position, like, the minimum salary is or the range?
Absolutely. Internships are absolutely with any position you should look into it a little bit. If it's an internship, I would gather up resources for what other internships pay. Depending on the organization, I've heard wide number. So when I look at our internship, for example, so we hire engineering interns, plug for Alcorn McBride Inc. I look at what Lockheed Martin may be paying. I look at what Northrop Grumman may be paying. I talk to some peers and just ask them hey, what are you guys paying your interns? And I get an assessment just to make sure that we stay A, competitive in that regard, but B, also that we take care of people. I would hate to be, undercutting for value and everything else. So same thing on your end. You have the ability here at UCF with a wide range of amazing experts upstairs that have access to a great alumni network that could probably tell you, hey, such and such at X organization pays their interns this much. Or we have an employer who comes in and recruits interns at $18 an hour or $25 an hour for their work. So I think the same thing with Glassmarket, the same way with LinkedIn, communicating with your peers like, hey, what did you get for your internship and what were you doing? And compare it to what the job role is and see if that aligns. That's the best advice I can give on it, is realistically communication with your peers in your network to find out what things are and then using the resources here at UCF.
Third floor has internships.
The third floor? Yes. So you can talk to them and kind of gauge what they see in that specific role and what they're used to, so maybe they can kind of help you out with that piece.
For those online, the advice was the third floor at the Career Development Center Dixon on main campus. You can go upstairs, you can make an appointment, And there are some fantastic people up there that will help you out with looking at market research for internships. Yeah, just a huge plug here that you have so many resources available to you at this university, from resume reviews to career interview workshops to these types of discussions, that I'll just plug it real quick. Every role I've accepted has come from, it was Nightlink at the time. Now it's Handshake. I'm showing my age, but it's Handshake now. But there's tons of roles up there that post salary ranges and things like that. So just make sure you're using your resources here to your advantage, especially resume reviews. Okay. I think we have like 10 more minutes. Is there any other questions I can answer live here in person? Yes.
I feel like a constant battle a lot of people have with getting into the market is you go into a job and they want 2 years experience and you're like, all right, well, I've been in school for 4 years and I haven't got an internship or anything. Or like in my situation, worked at like Universal, Disney, Walmart, Amazon, nothing that's relevant to finance. So what would you say to anyone trying to break into that market of what to use for experience or just to get that experience at an entry level?
Absolutely. So one of the things I love coming back here and doing is resume critiques and reviews. I'm a big fan of the XYZ format, just FYI, which is this measured by this resulted in this. And what I advise for showing experience that may not be technically related to the job is mainly teamwork, communication, some soft skill type things, and then projects that you did here at the university and outside the classroom can showcase just ability. When I was a finance major here at UCF, we had maybe they've probably updated these projects since then, but we had to do something where we compared the S&P 500 against a performing company. I did Gap, and we did like a statistical analysis against that. So I put that as one of the projects that I did on my resume, along with comparing bank holdings to other banks, and did a financial analysis on that. So those were things that came up during my interview that I was asked. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I see you worked at a jewelry shop running, their accounts payable. Realistically, I was just messing around in Excel and paying like maybe $100, $200 or something like that. But yeah, you get creative a little bit with what you're doing. But yeah, don't get discouraged by what I'm going to say is non-direct technical related experience to what you're trying to do. Really just focus on the soft skills, the communication that you did alongside of it, your interactions with the team, helping customers, that kind of thing can really help. And then showcasing your projects and that you're working on the outside to really pad your resume. Does that make sense? Awesome. Great. You guys feel ready to go out there, argue for what you want? Yeah, fight. Yeah. Out of curiosity, how many of you do have some offers inbound? Yeah? That's good. Feel excited about it? Good. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, hey, that's my LinkedIn up there. I enjoy connecting with students primarily. I just like to see what you guys end up doing. If you have a question or something like that, please, by all means, you're more than welcome to reach out. Like I said, I come up here a couple times a year, just do resume reviews just to give some time back. So I enjoy taking a look at that. I've helped a couple of students more recently land some interviews and internships in their first careers out just by making some small tweaks to some resumes, that type of thing. So if you're in that position or something like that, I'm always happy to take a look. I use a little AI tool to help me out and make some suggestions and things like that, some keywords. But outside of that, I hope you guys found it helpful. There's a little survey out there at the end of this that career services will probably use. There's some feedback on there that you can add in. I'm sure they'd love to see it. I'd love to see it just to help tweak this a little bit.